Welcome to Taking Stock, where we get to talk to our experts in our small business community about the challenges they are facing in their business and how to solve them in a way that leads to better business, more productive teams, and stronger communities. As always, I'm your host, Deke Bowman, Head of Product here at Coble. Today we're here with Josh Helfand, an expert in warehouse management and automation. He lives in the Philadelphia suburbs and is the Chief Revenue Officer at Panaxis, a company that specializes in automation and integration for warehouses, fulfillment, and distribution. He's here to talk to us about how manufacturers and distributors can build stronger, better businesses through good warehouse management and technologies. Welcome to the podcast, Josh.
Thanks. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to just learn a little bit about you and your work. So where'd you come from and how'd you get into warehouse management?
Yeah, so I have a strange background. Every male in my family is an engineer,
Okay.
and a lot of the women are too. I had a negotiation with my dad where I wanted to do philosophy or history or English or something like that. So we compromised on economics because my dad said, whatever you study has to have graphs and numbers and equations in it. So econ was our compromise. And this space is rapidly evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And so in many ways, I'm more of a generalist than a technical specialist.
Okay.
And automation affects an entire organization. So the way the entire business operates is an important thing to think about when companies start exploring automation. So I think it's a nice fit. The company also happens to be headquartered in Germany. It's a German-owned business. And I have a German background. I grew up in Germany. I speak German.
Oh.
So that has also been a plus, but that's just in this present role with Gephardt.
Okay. Were you born in Germany?
No, my parents announced when I was 7.5 that we were moving to Germany for a 2-year assignment for my dad's job.
Okay.
And a 1.5 into that, there was another family dinner.
Okay.
Where they said, well, Dad's project finished up early. We're going to be in Germany another year. And then that rolled over another year and another year. So we were, as a family, we were there for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So I really spent all of my formative years in Germany.
That's a pretty amazing experience. Most people don't get.
No, I'm very thankful.
Yeah.
I moved my family actually back to Germany a few years ago. I wanted them to love Germany the way I do.
Yeah.
They say that I did to them what my parents did to me. And I say, no, it's all in the prepositions. I did for you what my parents did for me. So I have this very strong, tight emotional connection to Germany also.
Yeah. Where were you at in Germany? Just
outside Frankfurt.
Outside Frankfurt. Cool. All right. So what do you, if you can boil down what you do now and tell us a little bit about the company that is Panaxis.
Yeah. So Panaxis is part of this global company called Gephardt. That's our global main brand. In America, we operate 2 brands. We have Gephardt, and then we also have a Panaxis brand.
Okay.
And it's kind of roughly divided. When you think about an automation project, there is a lot of upfront analysis, planning, figuring out exactly what kind of automation would fit. Is automation even the right play in the first place? And all of that analysis and material flow and facility planning is done in the United States under the Panaxis brand.
Okay.
And then the equipment manufacturing, assembly, integration is done with Gephardt or with Panaxis also.
Okay.
And what we do is help clients think about what kind of automation would fit into their operations. And a lot of times there are third-party integrators who are also helping clients think through these things. So we will support the integrators also. We have a very nice network of trusted integration partners. So there are a lot of different types of teams that get involved in a discussion like this. And we are offering the equipment and then also the software to make a a vision for what an automated space could look like actually happen.
Okay. Yeah. Could you say a little bit more about automation in general? And so my gut response, knowing some of our customers and our clients and our users, that automation sounds like magic. It sounds like work I don't have to do. But I get from the way you're describing and my own experience that it's always a bit more complicated than that. So
Yeah.
give us the elevator pitch on why automation is valuable and maybe where it doesn't belong.
So maybe one thing to think about is at a level that we've all seen. If you've been at the airport and you have a carousel bringing luggage around, so conveyance, so moving goods from one location to another. It might not be an ergonomic issue, although it could be. There could be weights or dimensions involved that make it very awkward for a human to transport that. But it may also just be a time study might reveal that moving from one corner of a warehouse to another with even a small package that isn't ergonomically a burden to a human is taking a lot of time. And so if you can convey that with some type of automation, a fixed conveyor or a small drive, an AGV or an AMR, there could be pretty significant efficiencies there. But then there's also things around storage and retrieval. So the management of inventory. And thinking through how do you know where something is? How many units do you have? How do you retrieve it? If you design a space for human interaction, you're constrained by our eyeballs, the reach of our hands. And that informs how you build your racking and your shelf system, and also maybe the organizational design. A grocery store, for example, is just a large warehouse in many ways that we do the picking in. But for that to work, you have to have all of the cereal in one place for humans. When you move to automation, you might have very different strategies that allow you to use the space much more efficiently, use your labor much more efficiently, deploy capital resources more efficiently. And there's always a trade-off of the investment versus the payoff and what's the timeline. So when our automation, I'm talking about the manipulation of physical goods of a variety of different sizes.
Great. It sounds like you enjoy and are fascinated by your work.
It is. Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about what about it caught you.
So I have a background in software.
Okay.
And software is also fascinating from a business perspective, very interesting because you can publish once and then you create it and then resell it. And you can also do something like, well, let's see what happens. And if you have a good rollback strategy and your deployment didn't work, you can just roll it back. And I know it's messier than that, but you can't really do that when you're bending steel and molding plastic. The planning horizons for making sure that the thing we're looking to implement really is correct brings in a whole bunch of new disciplines that I've really enjoyed. Coming from the software world, all of those timelines were a challenge for me. And it's fascinating, and I think the word you used is correct. When you think about something, you conceptualize something, and then a year later, sometimes more, you're able to walk out into a facility and you see this giant system. If it was, for example, a large automated storage and retrieval system, and you see the thing that you talked about and then saw in a CAD file actually implemented. It's fascinating. And that's something that you don't get in a pure software play. It's all mediated through these screens. But here you're actually you're anchoring into the ground. You're building rack structures. You're moving packages along conveyor systems, or you see the drive units driving around, and seeing the movement from inside of it. And it's not really just an individual brain. There's a team that's involved with this, but all of these collective ideas that then show up in real, tangible, value creating solutions is fascinating is a good word.
Yeah, that's great. That's fun to hear. I'm going to ask you to do some definitions real quick.
Okay.
Because you used AGV and then another automated
AMR. Yeah.
Yeah. What are those?
So if you've seen, these are drive units that move along the ground. They're wheeled like a large Roomba, like a little vacuum that runs around in your living room. And you can load freight onto that.
Okay.
And the AMR and AGV distinctions have to do not only, but primarily with the navigation system. So how do these units know where to go next, and how do they make their paths through the facilities? So an AGV is a guided vehicle, automated guided vehicle that is following a path of some kind. Could be magnetic inserts into the floor, or a strip that it's reading, or wayfinding. But there's some kind of track that it's following. And an AMR, an autonomous mobile robot, is actually thinking in real time of where to go, and it might be mapping out optimized routes. It often has more flexibility if it meets an obstruction somewhere.
Okay.
So it has from the outside, unless you knew which kinds of sensors to look for, you'd be challenged to distinguish them. The geometries are the same, but the internal guts are quite different.
Yeah. When you say, by the way, that you come from a family of engineers, I can tell.
Yeah. It's in my, that'll make my dad happy. It's in my brain. So I have the neural pathways are there. I just chose to populate it with different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Now your questions or your thought process, it's like, oh yeah, this is a kindred spirit. They like to think about those things. I love to talk about, take some time and talk about warehouse management. A lot of Cobal's customers are in the distribution or manufacturing space, which you also work in. And I think a common question we will get asked is, how should we, if we're going to scale or grow into a new facility, like how do you go about, what are some of the principles of effective warehouse management, and how do you get started to do it well so that you don't just do something and then kind of blindly walk into it? So what are some good, how do you lay the foundation?
So one thing, I'm a little bit familiar with Cobal, not super in depth, but I am a little familiar with Cobal's business. And one of the things that I'd probably start with is, are you sure you really need to automate? It is very easy to over-automate, to get out ahead of what you actually need, maybe because it looks really cool, but it introduces new complexities. Business is already complex enough, and automation adds new complexities. It removes some complexities, so it makes some things easier, but it also adds new things and if there are disciplines required that you don't already have as a business in-house, those are all things that need to be thought through. You don't want to be held hostage by your automation. You want it to be helping you. And for it to help you, you need to have the right kind of team in place, either in-house or as an outside partner, but that's still an investment one way or the other. I'd say that one of the things that companies, and this is how we like to start our conversations with new companies, is how much control do you have right now over your information, and how much control do you have over your inventory? If you don't have tight control over your inventory and really know exactly what is happening in your facility, you don't want to automate that. That's just, you're just going to make chaos problems that you already have much worse. So and one of the things that's interesting about this relationship for us is We don't offer any type of ERP systems,
Right.
but we need access to the data that is contained in an ERP system.
Right.
So there's a whole layer of software integration that's really important to the success of a project like this.
Yeah.
And if a client doesn't have that already in place, we tend to shy away. There are some types of automation that you could do, like, for example, moving something from position A across a warehouse to position B.
Yeah.
That doesn't require a lot of intelligence. You just place the material to be handled on a device, a conveyor or an AMR or whatever, and it brings it there.
Right.
And you may not need to really tightly track all of that. But the kind of automation that really and there could be real value in that, of course.
Yeah.
But the kind of automation that transforms a business and that changes their whole outlook requires a level of integration into
an
ERP system that, if that's not a possibility, makes automation less attractive. But there's another thing also. It's not just what you have in your virtual inventory.
Yeah.
So you may have all of that worked out, and you may have all of your material flows worked out. You may know what your tack times are from work cell to work cell in a manufacturing space. But if there's a lack of discipline in your labor force, or maybe the discipline's there, but there's actually a paper-based process to update the office.
Yeah.
Those are things that we'd also want to understand, because if you get out of step in your workflows, you may not want to automate that either. So things like maybe adding some barcoding or some type of infrastructure support before you go to automation would also be something we'd want to explore.
Yeah. So I want to keep pulling on this thread a little bit, and I want to even think before automation. So what are some of the principles that you see or that you would advise a company that are critical to that effective warehouse management, to knowing if I'm setting up a new facility, and I'm just green, I don't know anything, what do I need to be thinking about, whether it be or how to organize, tools I have available? Because I would agree, I think if you don't know what you're doing manually, automating an unknown manual process is a recipe for chaos.
It is. It's a great way to create chaos.
Yeah.
First of all, nobody knows what's happening, and it's all happening faster than it did before. So that's a great recipe for chaos. So one of the things that I think is important is to think about, so we characterize greenfield and brownfield operations. So if you're planning a greenfield new build, things like the volume of material that needs to be stored, and what is it actually, the actual definitions in the geometries and in the weight of the different part numbers that need to go into this warehouse, present state. And then you have inflows and outflows at different stations. And if it's a manufacturing facility, what does an assembly kit look like? How early do I need to build that assembly kit? And then what are the tack times for the different work cells for supporting my assembly operation? And so all of that needs to be thought through. And if you have the luxury of space, it is quite possible you may not need to automate. So space and labor are two very significant constraints that cause people to look at automation. There are also speed and accuracy benefits, but a lot of, especially a smaller business, can get by with manual labor that's organized better. And even if you project growth, and that's another thing that we always want to help clients think about, is you don't want to build for your current state. because it's a pretty significant capital expense.
Right.
So you want to build something that is, if not entirely future-proof, at least anticipates what that could look like.
Yeah.
And depending on what the business is, maybe you need some type of modularity where you can add additional automation capacity
Mm-hmm.
in an easy way, or different types of automation in the future that would integrate nicely. But I think that it is, if you can get away with a manual operation, humans are endlessly creative,
Mm-hmm.
which means they often cause problems. And they can cause a lot of problems.
Can you say more about that?
Humans are told to pick 10 pieces of this part number.
Yeah.
But they heard somewhere that maybe they're going to have to be back out here in an hour, and depending on your picking process, maybe they're picking discrete jobs. But they know that they're going to be back out at this far corner of the warehouse in 2 hours, picking the same part for another assembly.
Yeah.
So they just add another 10.
Hmm.
And then, but they don't deduct it. Like, they deducted the 10.
But they didn't record it.
But they didn't record it anywhere. So now you have 10 pieces that aren't in the bin you're expecting, are in a bin you're not expecting. And then they get a call, their kid is throwing up at school, and they take off. And now the order does actually come through for those 10 parts. They're not in the bin you were expecting.
Yeah.
And nobody would ever think to look in this bin.
Right.
They put things back. They grab, they're trying to pick 10, they grab handfuls, they end up with 13. They take the 3 out and they put them back in the bin, except it wasn't back in the right inventory location. It's in the location right next to it. Now, depending on what you're dealing with, it's almost impossible to just determine where they should have been.
Yeah.
And, but they also solve problems. Humans are great at solving problems. So a human might think, there's supposed to be a 10 count in here. There's only 7. I wonder if maybe they're in this bin right on the shelf next to it.
Yeah.
And so they're good at that kind of thing. And they're also good at, some type of skew, or you have a shelf that maybe is damaged.
Yeah.
And so they're careful about loading the tray, taking into account that you have some decaying plywood or something that you need to work around. So humans are really great at thinking through those types of, and solving those types of problems. And so very often, if you can just add more labor, you can probably solve for modest growth. Where things get really tricky is hockey stick type growth. So a client who's facing hockey knows there's hockey stick growth coming.
Yeah.
But the entire team is used to thinking about, well, if I start falling too far behind, I'll just add another human.
Yeah.
But the hockey stick doesn't allow you to just add another human. You would have to add 20 more humans. And you don't have the parking spaces. You don't have the onboarding you don't even have the hiring capacity.
Right.
And so suddenly you just get overwhelmed. And that's something that automation can handle. Automation can handle
Scale.
Yeah.
How should people be thinking about the way they organize a warehouse? Because there is the human element that will always kind of be there to some degree, at least for the foreseeable future. But are there things that they should be thinking about as their, whether it's seasonality or size of parts or weight or different things? And then also, maybe they do want to automate in the future. Are there things that they should be thinking about to deal with these dynamics?
So we like to think in terms of like ABC categories, so fast movers and slow movers.
Yeah.
And in any type of warehouse, whether that's an automated warehouse or a manual warehouse, you want to have your A movers, your fast movers, located as close to the next station as you can.
Yeah.
So in a human driven warehouse, for example, you wouldn't want all of your A movers at the top of a 30-foot racking system that you need a forklift to get to.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You want that in a quick grab
Yeah.
location, and you also probably want it located at the entrance point to your warehouse,
Yeah.
not all the way in the back corner. Now that has to be balanced with you mentioned geometries, dimensions, and weight, because you don't want to clutter up your main travel routes with large, bulky items.
Right.
So if you have large, bulky items that are difficult to retrieve, that also happen to be your A movers, you need to think about, how do I quickly clear my travel paths so that I don't block all of the rest of the operations of the warehouse with this heavy, bulky thing that just takes a long time to manipulate.
Yeah.
So that's from a manual perspective, thinking about ABCs and then weights, dimensions. Ergonomic considerations are real. You get a workman's comp claim, and you get too many of those, and suddenly your bottom line is directly impacted. So how you store things, how do humans have to actually get stuff in and out of a rack, for example?
Yeah.
All of those things are important to consider when you're dealing with a manual warehouse. It turns out that unless you know that you are running like a special, and so this part number, this SKU is going to move fast for the next 3 weeks,
Yeah.
in which case you can start moving it, closer to your access points. The most efficient way to store things is in a random distribution. It's a chaos theory distribution. It is interesting, and that is the most stable, most efficient way to organize a warehouse. And it's actually, even using the word organize is a little strange. Like, you're not organizing the warehouse. So what that means is, if you get, let's say you have a distributor who gets an order of 500 baseball caps in.
Yeah.
For human access in a manual warehouse, you'd put all those ball caps on the same shelf so that the human knows how to navigate there.
Yeah.
But it turns out that actually the best way to organize that, if you don't know whether the baseball caps or the socks are going to get ordered next, is you break up that inventory of 500 into, and you distribute it chaotically throughout your entire warehouse.
Kind of like wherever you have a spot, you put it, that it fits.
Right. And that is very confusing for a human. If the human has to buy, I don't know, say 50 apples.
Yeah.
But some of them are in the office supply area, some of the, like in a grocery store. If you just chaotically organize, you can't navigate that as a human.
Right.
You could look it up on a table somewhere, but you'd have to pick some here, and some here. Well, with automation, that isn't, some things computers can just do so much better than we can. And that's one of them. That isn't a challenge. It just knows where everything is, and it just goes and it pulls everything together. So that's a significant thing to consider when you're designing your warehouse, is how much automation am I going to have, at least in the storage and retrieval operation, because that will change actually how you even think about what you're building in the warehouse.
So I'm imagining a picker getting a sheet, and the sheet just has locations on it.
Right.
So they don't actually need to know. In fact, their attempt at memorizing the warehouse might be a liability, because they're creating pathways that aren't relevant tomorrow.
Yeah, I think chaos theory is relevant for human operation as well. They could just get a sheet and they're just told, go to aisle 6, shelf 43, location, whatever. So you can definitely do that. But and there are warehouses, there are manual warehouses that are absolutely designed that way. With automation, the organizing of all of that, you're not you're not working against the way humans like
Yeah.
to systematize and organize things.
Yeah.
So, and that actually is also one of the things that people might think about, like as an entry into automation, is there are interesting, like kind of voice prompt, like go to this place and pick count of this.
Yeah.
All kinds of wearable devices that that allow you to start moving towards more of a chaos approach as opposed to a human friendly approach without actually doing full automation, just helping the human navigate around a chaotically stored inventory.
Yeah. Are there other principles like, for example, we have a couple of companies that do food distribution. So obviously they have like stuff where the temperature of the room is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And you have stuff where the temperature of the room is
extremely relevant.
extremely relevant. But also the order in which they pick things is relevant because of the weight.
Yeah.
So if you're building a pallet, the weight of the objects is like the order you pick is next level importance, because if you're crushing things, it's no good, right?
Yeah. So there's weight. There's also, depending on what the use case is, you might want to think very carefully about how you're sequencing the layers of your pallet for what its end use is. Like if it's being unloaded into a retail outlet, you might want to sequence it so that it optimizes for that store's aisle locations. But there's other things also. You might need to think about layers of things that can't sit next to each other. Like you may not want to load rat poison on top of baby formula.
Right.
So you might have rules that that require you to create buffers or separations or even entirely different pallets. And there's another thing also, if you also want to think about not just how you build that pallet and all of the considerations about what is stable, the way we think about how we load our grocery bags also.
Right.
And that becomes even more important as you increase the weight, like, for example, in a pallet scenario. But then you also want to think about which pallets do I load in which sequence into the truck for an optimized delivery. You don't want to put your first stop's pallet all the way in the back of the truck, or in the front of the truck. You want to be able to unload carefully. And then also thinking about how your picker is going to get those. So one of the terms that I like, which is used in warehouse automation, is goods to person.
Okay.
So the scenario of a human going to the goods, they have a shopping list, a pick list, and they're going around picking. Automation allows you to reverse that. And so you have a station where your person stands and the goods to be picked are brought to them.
Interesting.
So you have some type of automation that goes into the automated warehouse. There's no humans in there. It's all automation. And it brings the thing to be picked.
Interesting.
And now you can have a human that then retrieves that out of inventory and does something with it, puts it into a work cart for an assembly operation or into a shipping package for in a fulfillment center. Or maybe it's an interim thing. You have multiple things coming in, so you have to build an order, so you put that into a put wall, but your human is standing there. And of course, if you go full automation, maybe you don't even have a human. Maybe you have a robot picking out of and placing and then, moving on. So.
That's wild. I think we could talk about this topic alone for an entire episode of like, what does it look like, not just to organize, but in some senses, I've seen some warehouses that are organized, again, like the food distribution, where you're building a pallet as you go, where the order is relevant in the way they organize a warehouse so that they can optimize the speed. So if a picker starts at one end and exits the other end, they've built the pallet as they pick. And it seems like that automation work, or that that organizational structure is really relevant. Would you see that that is a method that's useful, or is that just a very human-centric approach, and then we automate, it changes that?
I mean, sometimes you have building constraints also where like your frozen or your chilled or your ambient environments are maybe not optimized. If you had a greenfield scenario and you could just design space, but a lot of times that's not actually how businesses evolve.
Right.
They get into a business, a new opportunity presents itself, and they only handled ambient. And now they're being asked, could you handle frozen or chilled?
Yeah.
And they say, sure. And they look around and they get in a refrigeration expert and they say, there's only one place in this building you could do that. And that's in that corner there.
Yeah.
And that isn't where you would do it, except if they want to go after the business, they can only do it in that corner. Right. And so you often are faced with constraints that just are not optimized. That's how businesses grow organically, and being flexible and working around those parameters. So it could be a very poor strategy.
Yeah. And
it might just be somebody didn't think through it.
Yeah.
It could be the best out of a selection of not great choices.
Yeah.
And so you would just want to sit down, and that's one of the things we do is we just come in. We always like to see the facility.
Yeah.
There's things that that might not be immediately apparent, but which become extremely important. Like, what's the concrete slab like? You create super dense inventory storage and your general load, but also your point loads on that concrete slab may calculate out that this facility isn't feasible. You can't build that type of automation in this environment without a major reworking of the floor.
Yeah.
And in a brownfield, you need somewhere to put the inventory as you're adding the automation in. So I think that you're right. I think there could be real opportunities to just come in and help a client think about organizing their warehouse differently without doing any automation.
Right.
And so just mapping out the material flows. The material's still flowing, whether it's a human pushing or a forklift or a pallet jack. But the actual realities on the ground in the facility become really important.
Yeah, that's really good. I'd be curious to know, what are some metrics that business leaders should be using to evaluate performance in their warehouse? Or how should they be thinking about it from data that they might use to know, are we doing well? Are we not doing well? In some ways, it might be that they're doing just fine, but they don't know because they're not measuring that.
Yeah. So we like to think about things in terms of throughput. So there's what kind of throughput is needed at different transitions, at different movements from one location to another. There's accuracy.
Yeah.
Like, do you have, and sometimes this data isn't readily available, sometimes it is, but are there problems with picking accuracy?
Yeah.
Do you have a problem with a mismatch between your virtual inventory and your physical inventory? If you're a manufacturer and assembly operation and you regularly go to build the assembly kit, and your inventory, your ERP says you have this inventory.
Yeah. And
you go to grab the 20 count and you only have 3, and you have to change your entire production schedule because you don't have the parts. Your inventory says you have it, but so throughput, accuracy, I think, like kind of accessibility, selectability, like how easy is it to get to different things? And I would say there's probably a cost element also that you would want, like a cost per pick or a cost per stored unit. You want to know things like what is the turn on the inventory? How quickly am I turning this inventory? A company that stores large volumes of material for a long period of time, you may not need to, and if you have a week notice before you need to retrieve that out of inventory, that is probably not something you want to automate.
Yeah.
And then if you have really fast movers, say you're an assembly operation and talking about fasteners or something, screws or bolts, or you may not want to automate that either. That you may be going through those so fast that you want those on the floor in just a quick grab bin.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are all things people are already thinking about.
Yeah.
But those are all things that are really important to evaluate whether automation is even an opportunity. And I think even, from once you get into like the business perspective, there's what is your current cost of capital? What are the other opportunities you have for using that capital?
Yeah.
The opportunity cost of investing in automation, all two businesses say they're identical for all outward appearances, but maybe one of them has an acquisition opportunity.
Yeah.
That the other one doesn't. Well, that will directly influence how much capital they have available for automation. So all of those things, workforce, like I remember years ago learning about the origin of the word sabotage.
Okay.
Which is from the French word sabot, which is shoe or sandal. And so a saboteur is one who puts the sandal in, puts the shoe in. And what it comes from the Industrial Revolution. Machines at that time didn't have e-stops. So like if you got caught in a machine, you got ground up. And to stop a machine, you could put a shoe in or, jam a stick into the gears and it grinds to a halt. A saboteur is one who does that because they want to go for a coffee break, not because somebody's being harmed by a machine.
Yeah.
That type of consideration, though, is also something that we want clients to think through. How is your workforce going to receive automation? Are they going to be threatened?
Yeah.
Do you have an opportunity to retrain? Almost everybody now is not looking at automation in order to remove a headcount from their payroll. They have other jobs that they need to get done that they can't hire for, and they'd like to retrain. But does your workforce know that? Do they believe that?
Are you doing the work in advance to help equip them for that pathway?
Yeah, maybe some small wins where they see, hey, this automation actually did, like maybe it's a box erector. Maybe you get an operation that needs to build hundreds of cardboard boxes every day. Well, there's somebody standing there unfolding off a pallet, taping it, putting it. What if you just get a little machine that builds boxes?
Mm-hmm.
And now that person spends a half an hour loading the magazine, and then they're free to be retrained. So that's a positive experience where somebody says, actually, my life's much better.
Yeah.
But also, everybody's business is different. So there are some clients who really are looking to move faster than humans can move.
Right.
But so making sure we understand what is the objective.
Yeah. Let's talk about more. You've tactfully dove in and out of the automation question. I'd love to just hear more about kind of the future casting and how do you see automation working in the smaller and medium-sized businesses?
Yeah.
So there's conveyor belts and automated vehicles. I'm going to hear a little bit more about that here in a minute. But if I'm on the smaller side of business, what are little automations I should start thinking about? Is it simply just incorporating forklifts or different tools like that so I can be more dense in my warehouse? Or what do you?
Yeah. So I'd say, like every business, like every industry, things that are out of reach early, and are only available to the top of the food chain economically, filter down as adoption increases.
Mm-hmm.
Technologies and solutions become more readily available, and that's certainly the case here. Also, the dream from an automation perspective on many fronts, the human impact on this, I think, is something that actually just as a society we need to think about. But from an automation perspective, the dream is a lights out facility. There's no humans. The whole thing just hums along. And if you go to an assembly plant, like a automotive assembly plant, there's fewer and fewer humans involved. It's a giant automated beehive.
Yeah.
Without humans. And then, you might have a maintenance window where you drive the machines down there's a 6-hour or a 3-day window or whatever. And all of the human maintenance and service technicians come in and do their maintenance. And then an alarm goes and the lights, everybody leaves, the lights go back down and the thing starts up again. That's kind of a future vision.
Yeah.
And small businesses are not going to be able to afford that for quite a while.
Yeah.
That's out of, for most like warehouse automation operations, that's out of reach for almost everybody. I think a small business, from what I've seen, and I've been in a lot of small businesses because the current economic geopolitical environment, the tariffs, the America First, Build in America policies, are stimulating a manufacturing growth in America that has not actually been here for a very long time. And a lot of people are realizing I have an opportunity to increase my sales if I could build more. I need more assembly lines. I don't have the space to build another assembly line. I can't put another assembly line in because I have all of my racking for my inventory.
Right.
And so a lot of our conversations are about, can we help you go vertical and use your cube space within the facility you have? It's always a challenge to help a customer make the decision that automation will give a return on the investment that is attractive compared to just adding more people.
Yeah.
It's not a straightforward conversation, and we believe there are throughput and accuracy advantages.
Right.
But one of the things that's happened in, say, the last year is the automation investment that we're able to present to a client is not only being compared to, well, what if I just add more people? It's being compared to, what is the cost of a new building project? Like, do I need to expand in order to put in more assembly lines, or do I need to build or acquire a new building and put in additional assembly lines? And if we can show them, like, for example, you have a 40, 50 foot ceiling here that you can't use because humans can't reach that high.
Yeah.
So your inventory is being stored at human ergonomic levels. But I can automate your inventory storage, use up your whole cube space, dramatically compress the footprint you need to store your inventory.
Yeah.
Reduce the number of people you need. You can retrain them to do your assembly, and now you have room for 2 more assembly lines in your space. No building project. And now that investment that calculation starts looking very different compared to just being compared to a human play. So I think small businesses do need to think carefully about whether automation is really the issue or not.
Yeah.
My suspicion is for many, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't think that a small or mid-sized business should be thinking automation is the thing that they need to do to move their business forward. Because there's probably other things that would deliver more immediate business results than investing in automation.
And that goes back to our earlier part of the conversation about the organization of the warehouse.
Sure. Right.
Better picking strategies, better use of the technologies that might help optimize that. I'll have that be kind of a last question. What are some technologies that small to medium-sized businesses should be looking at implementing? Since automation might not be the case, or probably even isn't the case. What are some things that they should, whether it be in a warehouse for distribution or manufacturing, that change allow them to perform at a next level?
Yeah. So I would say, maybe I'll answer it differently than like what they should be, but here are some of the things that I've seen manual operations get traction within their organizations for moving forward with.
Yeah.
And maybe that is an indication that is what they should be doing. And so one of the things, we talked to some folks who have a manual operation with high valued parts.
Yeah.
That maybe could be easily sold on eBay or a black market somewhere.
Okay.
Some things aren't easily moved.
You're right.
Some things are pretty specialized, but other things are generically valuable. And so maybe using some automation to secure the inventory could make sense if they have an inventory shrinkage problem.
Yeah.
So some of the benefits of enclosing your inventory in an automated space is you have a lot of control over what's moving in and out. You track everything. There's no human grabbing. The only way a human can grab it is if a command was sent to the automation to bring that piece out. And so you have full traceability there. There's also human assist tools like barcode scanners, where eliminating the possibility of the chicken scratch on the paper not being legible, the time delays between when the paper is written and when it actually gets entered into the system in a back office somewhere. So barcoding your inventory. And then different types of human assist, like you could wear headsets and you have a pick to like a voice telling you where to go next and what to pick, or visual indicators, pick to light, where you maybe you invest in some light strips and you tie that into your inventory locations. You could get a count on there so that it shows this is what is in there, and you deduct it, maybe if you have it integrated with the barcode. I think those types of things are valuable. And then the movement, reducing human movements, just the travel paths. So there are automated, the AMRs and the AGVs, there's automated forklifts, there's fixed conveyance to just move things from here to there so that you're not tying up people. Those would be some of the things that off the top of my head, I think would be worth exploring. But again, to go back to the beginning of the conversation, I'd start with making sure the actual data, the information is tight and secure. That would be the first thing I would always start with.
Always know how much you have,
how much you need,
and where's it at? Where's that?
And where's it going next? All of that. It's heavily information driven, and so that will be a benefit whether you ever automate or not. From a business performance perspective, getting that really tight is, I think, would probably almost always be the first step.
That's great. Well, my last question that I ask all of our guests is, what are some books or resources on this topic, warehouse management, automation, that you might share with our listeners? They're a learning group. I think most business owners have to be learners as they continue to grow their business.
So there's a few, there are industry specific resources that you could dive into. I think a great resource that people can just start with to start thinking about automation is our trade show. Our industry conference is material handling industry, so MHI. And I think if you go on there are text-based learning opportunities, but also videos that talk through what the material handling space looks like and how to think through making investments, calculators, how to calculate return on investment, and also a list of our competitors. It's a really neat space. There's a lot of great companies offering great technologies, and so having everything in one place to start your evaluation, I think would be. I'd suggest just poke around MHI.
Great, that's awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today, Josh.
Thanks for having.
It's a been a fun conversation, and I think maybe we'll have to invite you back again because it sounds like there's more that we can learn about automation or about just how people and businesses are growing in the industry today.
Yeah, I think I'm interested in reviewing what I said. It's live, as you. I don't know if it'll show up, but there's a drip, and like this is a live conversation, and so who knows what I'd like to clarify, and so another shot at it would be great. I would enjoy that.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. We hope it has helped you to think in some new ways about managing your business and the tools you can use to do that. If you enjoyed this conversation and found it helpful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. We'll keep bringing you practical advice and expert perspectives to help you build a better business, more productive teams, and stronger communities. And if you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover in a future episode, let us know at marketing@cobalsystems.com. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, I'm Deke Bowman, and this is Taking Stock. We'll see you soon.